Talk Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who joins us right now from Capitol Hill. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Well, what did you think about the release of 94 pages of email regarding Benghazi written 3 days after the attack?
Look, I will always applaud the release of documents. I just need everybody to understand the perspective. While these 100 are good and they shed light on what happened, we have nearly 25,000 that they haven't released. And so it begs the question, particularly of the unclassified documents, if you're okay to release this short window of documents, which is really between the 14th and 15th of September, what about the ones before and what about all the ones after? Let's go ahead and release those as well if you're going to fulfill the president's promise that as he gets new information, he'll release it.
So, Congressman, here's an excerpt from the pages from the talking points discussion in these emails. Quote, the currently available information suggests that the demonstrations in Benghazi were spontaneously inspired by the protests at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. That's what ended up in the final version, I believe. The initial press reporting linked to that Ansar al-Sharia group, which is part of al-Qaeda, was taken out. Do you think that this release from the White House was a way in which to take the blame away from the White House and focus more on former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the State Department?
You're seeing a little bit of a battle, I think, between the intelligence community and the Department of State, and you get the White House involved. And what we have over the course of time is less clarity. What I want to do is go back to the document that came out in the hearing last week when my colleague Trey Gowdy of South Carolina released, and what the Speaker of the House talked about last week, which is this document that came out within hours of the attack, an internal document within the State Department saying that we, the United States government, told the Libyan ambassador that it was Ansar al-Sharia. There was great clarity and the hours right afterwards. It's only after you get all these hands and cooks in the kitchen that suddenly this morphed into something that it really wasn't. And what I think history will show over the course of time is when the President and the Secretary of State and others continue to go out, Jay Carney at the White House, continue to go out and perpetuate this story about a video, it never happened. And also, I want to remind you, Gregory Hicks, who is the chief of mission on the ground, is never asked what happened in Libya. He's the chief of mission, and they didn't bother to actually ask him what happened in Libya.
Well, so what is your answer to what difference does it make? And there's no there. It happened. It's done.
Well, we have 4 dead Americans. We have terrorists that are still on the loose. We have hundreds of embassies and consulates, thousands of people serving overseas. Can you imagine if this administration used those same words referring to the Boston bombings? If we hadn't captured or killed somebody in the Boston bombings? Can you imagine saying, well, what difference does it make?
That's
that happened a long time ago. Come on. You'd never take that same attitude.
Sure, you
never.
Yeah, you touched on this a moment ago. Jay Carney has said some things that are untrue. So do you trust what the White House says about Benghazi?
Look, I think objectively, look, I'm a Republican in the House, okay? So put it in context. I know people will do that. But objectively, the only thing that the White House spokesperson has is credibility. There is nobody at this point that believes the White House spokesperson, Jay Carney, that these were merely stylistic changes. The public was misled for weeks.
Yeah.
And that is fundamentally just not.
Congressman, should he be fired for lying to the American public?
Look, President Obama gets to make the personal choice as to who his spokesperson is. I think he lacks credibility. I think the White House press corps is now starting to understand that they were misled. Look, people make mistakes.
Yeah.
Fess up to them.
I don't know so much of it, Congressman, if it's about Jay Carney, because he's just the operative that's going out there to say what the president's telling him to say. Real quickly, David Petraeus, who's the head of the CIA at this time, there's a quote in an email where he says that maybe we should not go with these changes. Do you think he was also thrown under the bus? Because it's interesting that he was asked to resign and his whole affair came to light right during this same time.
It adds a lot of suspicion. I'd love to hear from General Petraeus himself. Ultimately, what the Oversight Committee, what Darrell Issa is asking for, what we're all asking for is we just want the truth. Where it takes us, it takes us. But that's all we ask for. That's all we're asking for.
That's what we want.
It's coming out in drips and drabs. Congressman Jason Chaffetz, thanks so much for your time.